Let's raise a glass and have a toast of champagne. Cheers. No, it's not what you think. There's no sparkling wine in this glass. Instead, what I'm drinking is the champagne of dairy. And what we have here is a glass of milk kefir, which is a tart and tangy fermented drink. It's similar to yogurt, but it's less thick, so it's even to drink even out of a champagne glass. And in this video, we're going to look at the 7 major health claims of kefir and which are true and which are not, in order to find out whether it's really a superfood or just another overhyped fad. And of course, if you're already getting yogurt and other fermented foods and drinks in your diet, we'll look at whether it's worth making room in your fridge for kefir. The #1 reason most people drink kefir is to support their gut health. And if that's why you love it too, then you're in luck. You see, it turns out this health claim is true, and kefir is fantastic for gut health. The main reason it helps so much is because of the good bacteria, also known as probiotics, you'll find in every glass. In fact, when it comes to probiotics, kefir is even better than the most popular cultured dairy product on the planet, which is yogurt. Here's a clip from our kefir versus yogurt video explaining why. And that's because milk kefir grains contain a much richer and diverse world of beneficial microorganisms compared to yogurt starter culture. And so unsurprisingly, they are able to produce so much more good bacteria as well as beneficial yeast in the kefir drink itself. In fact, in a single cup of homemade milk kefir, you can typically find between 100 to 300 billion CFUs of good bacteria and yeast, which can come from 30 to 100 different probiotic species. That's huge. And let's compare that to yogurt, which typically has only 1 to 5 billion CFUs per serving, and usually from only 2 to 4 different probiotic species. Apart from being so much more potent, the good bacteria and yeast in kefir are also much more useful as they're able to stick around the gut much longer, which means they can have a greater impact on your intestinal health, especially when it comes to crowding out both bad bacteria and yeast. Pretty cool, right? And given that many gastrointestinal problems are associated with low levels of good bacteria in the gut and poor diversity of gut bacteria, kefir's ability to deliver billions and billions of good bacteria to our microbiome is something to get excited about. Indeed, based on this benefit alone, we'll raise a glass to the champagne of dairy. High cholesterol levels have been linked to some serious health issues over the years. In particular, some aspects of LDL cholesterol, which is the bad type of cholesterol, and triglyceride levels, which is a type of fatty substance that circulates in your blood, have both been associated with an increased risk of heart disease. Unsurprisingly, doctors like to prescribe statin drugs to manage cholesterol levels. In fact, right now, over 35 million Americans take statin drugs to manage their cholesterol levels day to day. So the health claim that kefir may help lower cholesterol is worth investigating. Let's take a look and find out what we found. Overall, the results we've seen in human studies are a mixed bag. While some studies have shown promise, others did not find any cholesterol-lowering benefits from consuming kefir. In fact, in one study focused on diabetics, the subjects were drinking a whopping 20 fluid ounces or 600 mils of kefir every single day for over 8 weeks. That's a whole lot of kefir. And yet it couldn't move the dial on total cholesterol, LDL, or other cholesterol markers. There is some good news though. We came across a giant meta-analysis done of 39 studies involving a total of over 2,200 participants who consumed fermented dairy products. And the researchers concluded that probiotic fermented milk products like kefir may help reduce serum total cholesterol and LDL levels. The catch with these results, the benefit was greater for men than women and was only noticed after 8 weeks of continual consumption. Now, our research team found another promising study that showed kefir reduced LDL cholesterol, the bad type, and raised HDL cholesterol, the good type. But the catch with this study, it was done in mice with high cholesterol and used a probiotic strain isolated from Tibetan kefir grains. Now, it's nice to know that kefir can help mice in Tibet, enjoy more cheese. But hopefully in the future, there will be more conclusive research that shows kefir can help lower cholesterol in people as well. So for now, when it comes to lowering cholesterol, the jury is still out. Blood sugar levels are on the rise worldwide, along with diabetes and pre-diabetes. In fact, roughly 1 in 10 Americans have been diagnosed with diabetes. That's approximately 37 million people, and the vast majority of them, like 90 to 95%, have type 2 diabetes. That means they struggle with insulin resistance and blood sugar transportation, and it is obviously a big problem because this is associated with a high risk of heart disease and other chronic conditions. So the health claim that kefir may be able to help reduce blood sugar levels is fascinating. But is this claim true? Well, our research team was very excited by the first study we came across. It showed that after 8 weeks of drinking kefir every day, the participants' blood sugar levels dropped by 16% on average. That's pretty impressive, especially since the people involved had type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any other research that mirrored these results. So for now, the benefit remains a maybe at best, and we will need more research to support this claim. If you or your parents have experienced the impact of poor bone health or osteoporosis itself, then the claim kefir may strengthen bones and reduce the risk of osteoporosis is worth looking at. So the first thing we do know is that milk kefir is obviously going to contain a good amount of calcium, usually around 10% more than whole milk. And calcium is, of course, an important building block of strong bones. Given many Americans don't get enough calcium through their diet, or in fact deplete their calcium stores due to poor diet, kefir can be helpful. But is that the whole story? Well, it turns out that in order to increase absorption of calcium and thus actually strengthen the bones, your body also needs vitamin K2. In fact, studies show that consuming enough K2 may cut down your risk of osteoporosis by as much as 81%. Unfortunately, nearly all adults over age 40 may be deficient in vitamin K2, with some studies suggesting up to 97% of older people are deficient in it. And so this is where kefir, which is an excellent source of vitamin K2 and much higher in K2 than normal whole milk, may really help. Indeed, vitamin K2 may be the X factor nutrient in kefir when it comes to bone health. Best of all, the friendly bacteria in kefir may actually enhance the nutrient content of certain vitamins, such as vitamin K. So given kefir is packed with calcium, and even more importantly, vitamin K2, there is good evidence to suggest it will support bone health. High blood pressure is a silent killer. Without warning, chronic elevated blood pressure can lead to a debilitating or even fatal stroke or heart attack. In fact, it is one of the leading causes of premature death worldwide. So can kefir reduce blood pressure? Well, just before we jump into this, let's be clear. Certain lifestyle factors like alcohol and smoking will cause high blood pressure regardless of how much fermented milk one drinks. So in other words, we're not expecting research studies to show us that kefir can help the Keith Richards of the world miraculously have blood pressure within a normal range. But is there any merit to the health claim for the rest of us? Well, from our research, we didn't find any overwhelming evidence to support this claim, but we did find reason to be cautiously optimistic. You see, one small study, and by small I mean microscopic, compared the blood pressure levels of 12 people who drank about 6 ounces of kefir every day for 3 months, and 10 people who were given regular milk. The result was that the kefir drinking group experienced a significant drop in both systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. The regular milk drinkers only experienced a slight drop in systolic blood pressure. With all of that said, the overall impression our research team formed is that while these results are promising, much more research is needed. Lactose intolerance is a big deal in today's world. In fact, did you know that experts estimate nearly 70% of us struggle to digest the lactose milk sugar found in dairy products? The main reason for this, many of us don't have enough enzymes to digest lactose. And in case you want to know the name of that enzyme, it's called lactase. So the idea that kefir can improve lactose intolerance is really interesting. And even more so, when we take a moment to realize that traditional kefir is actually made from cows, sheep's, or goat's milk, which they all contain lactose. How does that make sense? Well, there are claims that kefir is actually a cultured dairy paradox. And what I mean by that is even though kefir is typically made using milk which contain lactose, it also contains friendly lactic acid bacteria which love to gobble up lactose and break it down for us into lactic acid. That means kefir has less lactose in it than the milk it was made from. Now, what all of that means to us is that kefir is indeed easier to tolerate than normal milk. But, and this is a big but, it does not mean that kefir is going to improve your ability to digest lactose in other foods and drinks that you consume throughout the day. Throw away your antibacterial hand soap and instead wash your hands with kefir. Just kidding, don't try that at home. But there are claims online that kefir, or at least the probiotics in kefir, have potent antibacterial properties. So is this true? Well, in one study, our research team found salmonella was placed in a bottle of kefir. And just before we go on, in case you don't know, salmonella is the bad bacteria that is responsible for about 1.35 million cases of food poisoning a year in the US alone. Now guess what happened 24 hours later when the researchers checked the bottle of kefir? To their astonishment, there were no traces of salmonella left. Like David Copperfield making the Statue of Liberty disappear, kefir pulled off a remarkable vanishing act. And while this all sounds very promising, it should be noted that in these studies, the probiotics in kefir did not have any impact on other pathogens such as E. coli. So while kefir does have some antibacterial properties, it's hard to conclude just how useful it is as a tool in the fight against bad bacteria. As we've seen, there are a lot of different health claims being tossed around by kefir lovers. But the reality is that most of them need more research, and in particular, they need better quality studies both in terms of study design and participant count. The good news though is that for us, drinking kefir for the benefit of gut health, the verdict is clear. Kefir supplies billions and billions of good bacteria, and this is extremely helpful for supporting the diversity and abundance of our microbiomes. And given the low levels of good bacteria in the gut are associated with many gastrointestinal issues, this is a huge win. So for that reason alone, kefir is a fermented food worth stocking in your fridge. Now that you know more about the benefits of kefir, I'm sure you've got a few questions like, how do I make my own kefir at home? Or which ready-made kefir brands are the healthiest? Well, to find the answers you're looking for, check out our free Fermented Foods Compare tool, where we compare kefir against kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, and a host of other fermented foods. And you'll find the link to this in the description below. Now we want to hear from you. Have you tried kefir and experienced any of these benefits? And if you bought it, which brand did you go with and why? And if you enjoyed this video as part of our fermented food series, I'd love for you to join our Essential Stacks community by clicking the subscribe button below. We research the most important ways you can improve your digestive health so you can love your gut again. Bye for now.